Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another Inside Lowell podcast. I am your host, Teddy Panos, coming to you from the WellPoint Studios here in downtown Lowell. And today, we're going to give you an inside view of another one of the candidates vying for a seat on the Lowell City Council. In today's case, he's vying for a seat for the District 4 City Council seat, the what's more commonly known as the downtown district, but realistically, it covers a ton of neighborhoods, 3, maybe 4, and it's earned the nickname the Sausage District. So without any further ado, let's introduce you to that candidate. Sean McDonough is joining us here in the WellPoint Studios. Sean, welcome to the WellPoint Studios. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, anytime. You're a new face. You know, a lot of the folks who are, even if they're first-time candidates, people, I know so-and-so, he's been with such and such organization, or so-and-so works there and there. A lot of folks, when we published the story about your running, said, I have no idea who that is.
And isn't that fun?
that can be a cursing,
it's
a blessing, right?
It's a blessing and a curse. I'm leaning into the blessing. The one part is, I mean, I've lived here for a while. It's coming off the street, and I always used to ask, am I related to that guy with the funeral home, and he's got the John McDonough? Yeah. I am not related to John McDonough. So and he was I have a recognizable, yeah.
That everyone rumored to be running for a
right. I mean, and I was looking at yard signs, and I was like, well, I can't buy anything, because if I run on my last name, and then this guy gets in the race, what am I doing? So now they're coming in.
Yeah. You have to make. And, of course, no relation to the Sean McDonough that we all know from Red Sox and other play-by-play, right?
Look at this hair. Yeah, not.
Definitely not Sean McDonough from the Red Sox lore, but you are Sean McDonough, downtown Lowell resident. So for folks who don't know who you are, and this is their first introduction to you, give us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? Who is Sean McDonough, and why does he want to be our District 4 City Councilor?
It's a great question. I am Sean McDonough. I am a special education teacher at Lowell High School. I live on Market Street, right above Brood Awakening on the 3rd floor. I walk to work every day. My wife walks to work at the high school every day. I went to UMass Lowell. I've been in Lowell. Depends on when you start counting. I think most UMass Lowell students that wind up settling in the city go through a similar thing. So 10, 11 years. My wife and I moved into an apartment on Jackson Street after Peace Corps service. Found out how well Lowell High School teachers pay. Thank you, Paul George's. Got jobs at Lowell High School after a couple of years, and now I don't see any reason we're ever leaving.
So you mentioned special ed teacher, teaching at Lowell High School. You mentioned going to UMass Lowell. You mentioned the Peace Corps. Yes. Interesting. I don't believe we've had a candidate who has served in the Peace Corps. If they have, it's not something that's still talking about.
This is a real pandering thing to point out here to the Greek radio guy in Lowell. But Paul Tsongas was in the Peace Corps.
Was he really?
And ran for city council. Yeah.
All right. I like it. So there you go. There's a pretty good role model to follow, especially in terms of success. So how did all of that? How did, not being from Lowell, you were from the area though, right? Yeah. Merrimack Valley, and if I remember correctly, your grandmother lived in Lowell, so you visited a lot?
Yeah, so I grew up in Methuen. My grandmother lived in Lowell until her 3rd nursing home. But she had a house in the Highlands on Pine Street. She'd watch my sister and I all the time. We were down here weekly.
All right. So familiar with the city, went to college in the city, ended up moving to the city, and ultimately making this your home. But in between, a little stretch in the Peace Corps. Yeah. How did that, along with teaching, kind of shape you, and how will that serve you going forward if you're successful enough to be elected?
I think I care a lot about where I live. I care a lot about my neighbors. I am a volunteer coach on the tennis team, and listening to those kids, just being around the high school for a few years, listening to those kids, to my neighbors, to those kids' parents. I have an 11-month-old now. He's going to be 1 at the end of the month. And how that starts to shape previously existing concerns and almost light a fire under them, where there are these issues that you're aware of for a long time, and then, I don't know, at some point something snapped, and it was like, no, it's got to be better. We can be better. And I couldn't I said it to too many people, and too many people said, well, why don't you run? And I said, because I can't get paid. Why don't you run? And they said, no. I said, fine, I'll do it. That's, you know,
the last man standing, the last one willing to take the plunge, right?
I think when you look around downtown and back central and that chunk of Lakeview that is in both Pawtucketville and Centerville, there are livability issues. There are neighborhood kitchen table concerns that I have, that my wife has, that our friends and neighbors have, that you don't hear addressed.
All right. Well, I want to talk about the issues. I want to know what you're focusing on, and we'll talk about some of the issues. But I do, since you mentioned the various components of the district, and we jokingly call it the sausage district, but it seems to be dominated by downtown. But if you think about it, it includes across the river, part of Centerville, part of Pawtucketville. You've also got part of back central, and you're also down in that UMass Lowell area, whatever that neighborhood would be called.
It used to be the acre, yeah, right?
So when you talk about the needs of the residents, what strikes me a lot about this district, District 4, is sometimes the needs of one are completely opposite from the needs of the other. You always have this clash, right? What's good for Belvedere might not be good for the Highlands, etc. But you've got this unique little thing that sometimes occurs within your district. How does that make this seat challenging yet also kind of fun to represent if you're able to do so?
I think what's fun about District 4 is that District 4 is almost a microcosm of the city. It's a little mini city-wide race. It just excludes the Highlands and Belvedere, and I have Pawtucketville. I'm okay with excluding Belvedere. They can't vote for me, so I can make a joke about them. And I actually think every district seat and every at-large seat, as long as I've paid any attention to local politics, people always want to talk about downtown and the area that is District 4. So I think District 4 also needs to do a better job at speaking up for District 4. Lots of people want to come in and do things to District 4, but there's 6,000 residents just in downtown. There's 8,500 registered voters in the district. I don't have the number off the top of my head for the population of the portion of back central that's in district. And then you still have Lakeview and a few streets off Lakeview. A lot of the issues, I think, are fair. They're universally applicable to the people in that district. They are. I don't know that they necessarily are competing.
All right. So what do you see as the most important issues facing the district? What are the issues that you're going to kind of base your campaign on at its core?
So at its core, there's the issue that ticks seemingly everybody off, which is parking. I think that's like the go-to. Hey, do we want to make anybody angry today? Let's bring up parking.
So one thing that unites all Lowellians, their hatred of paying for parking.
Absolute disdain for everything related to parking. But parking is part of a broader issue downtown, and that's this failure, I think, by not just this iteration of the city council, but of kind of my experience in Lowell for a decade. And then even looking back, and I mean, Richard Howe has this incredible archive where you can watch all the things the city has thought about doing. I don't know. We need to remember that people live there, right? The small businesses are very important, right? And getting people into downtown is very important. But so is getting people that already live there to walk out their front door, and when they walk out their front door, not to get into their car that they're overpaying to park and drive to Chelmsford. So if we can build a downtown that prioritizes or centers residents of downtown, whether they moved here 5 years ago or they're moving here tomorrow, and looks at those residents as the driver of economic development. I love restaurants. I like bubble tea. I like all these things. It's where I see people going. We need to figure out, how do we build a city that gets people outside, gets people's friends to want to visit them here, which is the problem that I have. We're always having to leave to go see our friends because, we can't park and we can't. We have a huge strength. And that's what I think, need to use. I think we have, just in downtown, at 6,000 residents, within a half-mile walking distance of downtown, and that includes parts of Centerville, almost all of back central. How many more residents is that? Let's get them into the city and using a city in a way that they want to. And let's listen to them.
All right. So fascinating. So this is a discussion that has been had since I was probably a teenager when the downtown started to wane. And I'm one of the older folks now, but I hear whenever they talk about, how do we revitalize the downtown, I so often hear ideas of the past that are gone, not just in Lowell, but probably everywhere else. Hell, the malls are probably gone at this point. They're becoming casinos.
Teddy, there's a casino in Nashua at the Pheasant Lane Mall.
Exactly. So that kind of tells you where malls are going. Yeah. So you're a relatively young guy. Right,
29. I'll be 30 at the end of August.
All right, so so you're full grown up.
I'm a big adult. Yeah.
You're about to go into middle age, but so talk to me about somebody your age, because you're younger than most folks who are coming up with solutions for downtown. What would make a downtown thrive for you and your wife and people of your generation who are making downtown their home, or would maybe think about making downtown their home?
Yeah, so when I listen to my wife, when we talk to our friends, our neighbors, I have a friend, I work with her, she lives in Centerville. She's got a 2-year-old and a 6-week-old. She's less than a mile from downtown. I've met her, I was on paternity leave for a little while, we met for coffee. It was fun. That was the first time she had come downtown in, I think she said like 7 months or something. In before that was fairly long too. And why? It's because there's nothing to do. There's lots of places to spend money, but there's nothing to do. And so right now, if I walk out my front door and stay in downtown, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a lap around the block and then spend money. There's no park, there's no playground, there's no recreation facility at all. We're not using what space the city does have to create community spaces where there is not the expectation that you spend money, but you're proximate to all of these little shops, and then you're spending money. And that's a model that's worked in neighboring towns. You have people with disposable income, including the often maligned high school kids who I see every morning when I go to walk to work, and they're spending $9 on matcha milk from Andy, right? Like, these kids have money. Our residents have money. They have income to spend. But you can't everything can't be a commercial unit or housing. You need a place to go, a place to see your neighbors, to meet friends, to do activity, and then you spend incidental to that.
So that's a fascinating point, because when we always talk about, you've got everything nearby in downtown. Yeah, well, you do if you want to go see a concert, a game, or whatever. But you're right. What is there to do if you don't necessarily want to go out and spend? You can eat and drink, sure, have a cup of coffee. So many options, so many great dining options, etc. But you mentioned a park. So there is a park that is being constructed in the Hamilton Canal District, the area there, the Jam area there. I can just tell by the look on your face, you are you trying to tell me without telling me that you're not enamored of that park and the design? And you don't think that's going to become the communal meeting space for the downtown residents?
I don't want to criticize what little bit of good we got there. Okay, to start. However, when I go, so I mentioned I am a volunteer coach for the high school tennis team. If I'm at Shed or at Callery, particularly Callery, because that's a fairly dense neighborhood, there are volleyball nets everywhere. There's little mini soccer. All that neighborhood needed was enough open space to set up, and you have adults playing. I don't know, it's like a combination between futsal and soccer. It's a very small space. They're very competitive. It looks really fun, but I'm bad at soccer. There's more volleyball nets than I can count. You do have kids using the tennis courts. You have all sorts of various games being set up and used. I don't know what you do with a park that small. I don't know that there was a better use for that very small amount of space, but that's not the kind of space, and there's not even going to be grass, right? So that's not the kind of space where It's not a play structure, and it's not a large multi-use recreation area. It's like a mound of climbable. I don't fully I've read this proposal like 3 times. I was showing kids at work. I was so excited when it got announced, and like they're like, "What is it?" I'm like, "It's a park, guys." And they're like, "What do I do with it?" I'm like, "We'll have fun at it." Yeah.
All right. You mentioned students, high school students, college students. To your mind, does anybody speak for them? Has anybody really spoken for them or even to them over the last decade or so? I know a lot of people talk about it and say it, but is anybody connecting with them? Are they do you get a sense that any of your students or your former college classmates rally behind any local politics? Do they care? Do they care about the young kids things and not give a damn?
Well, there's a lot of apathy there, and it's learned. So going out going out, I wasn't running a campaign, just talking to people like a normal person, because I wasn't planning on running for anything even 3 weeks ago. They don't feel heard or necessarily seen in it. In talking to their parents, some of whom I'm friends with, it sounds like this is a problem that's bigger than just an apathetic 17 or 18 or 19-year-old kid. It's the parks at 𝐤𝐿RI and not in districts, but it's so indicative of the broader issue with the city, right? There's 3 tennis courts at 𝐤𝐿RI, and they're very well used. That neighborhood, I've never gone there and not had there be full tennis courts. Maybe I'm just going at peak hours, but there are lights hanging from telephone poles. Those lights, according to a friend of mine, went out when he was about 12 years old. He's 42. He still lives in the neighborhood. The lights went out when he was like 12 years old. Those lights went out 30 years ago. I said, well, have you asked the city? He goes, the city doesn't care. I said, but have you asked? He goes, oh yeah, we ask often. I go, well, they have the 311 thing now, right? This was a whole big deal. Let's do it. So I put in the 311 request. Why not? The city got back to me and said, oh yeah, we're never turning them on.
Which park was this?
This is at 𝐤𝐿RI Park, right behind Lowell Catholic.
My hunch is that became a bone of contention with the neighbors later at night.
But then take the lights down. And the baseball fields are lit. But make a decision. Either have lights up, and they should work, or take them down, because like when I'm there, people show up, they want to play pickleball or tennis or whatever. They're showing up at 7:30. They see, oh, look, there's lights. I haven't been here before. These will turn on. Just take them down. It's easy. Either fix them or take them down.
We're chatting with Sean McDonough, candidate for Lowell City Council in District 4. That is the downtown district, more commonly referred to, but it's also the sausage district because it includes a bunch of other neighborhoods: Centerville, Pawtucketville, Back Central, UMass Lowell.
Really, really quick, Teddy, just on because I want to very specifically about downtown. Downtown should be the social hub of the city, and the social hub includes every age. There are kids on that team, and there are other kids who I've spoken to. There are people my age who I've spoken to. Your girlfriend lives in Centerville. You live in Back Central, or you live in Lower Belvedere. And it's a 2-mile walk up. Or your friend lives in the Upper Highlands, and it's a 2.5 to 3 mile walk, depending on where in Upper Highlands they are, to go through downtown, around downtown, across, I don't know, what are we up to now? Like 18 lanes on Thorndike Street. And it's probably going to be 20 by the time this airs, but you're
auditioning to host the Daily Pulse. I'm
not. So you go through downtown, which is, according to them, is boring and there's nothing to do. And you get someplace where you can actually do something, and then you spend money incidental to that. So if you wind up at Shed and you get your friend from Upper Highland to your girlfriend to walk down, and now you move up to Shed Park, you walk down to Wendy's, because we all know that the Wendy's Corporation is hurting for cash, and you hang out at Shed, you do whatever, and then you go drop, at this point, 2 things at Wendy's is like $30. So that's where our $30 will go, versus if there was something to do downtown. If you had any of that, I'm not saying we're going to get Central Park, but one basketball court or just anything to do. Now you're buying the bubble tea, or you're going to Brood or Mochi Nut, or yeah.
So it's interesting the timing of this discussion, because the city has been putting out a ton of announcements, parks that they're closing for throughout the summer to rehab, and they're suggesting alternate sites or whatever. But they just went through all this use of ARPA money, and a lot of it went into parks. Part of it was for that park you described earlier that may or may not be
in a rain garden
successful. There's another vehicle there to kind of create parks or whatnot, and that is CPC money, Community Preservation Fund money. I won't bore people with my takes on that, but do you believe that that money has been properly used for open space, parks and recreation, and as most people think of community preservation, or do you believe too much of it is being weighted towards housing and other units other uses that are allowed under the CPC funding, but I'm not sure people who voted for it kind of really thought through when I think they were envisioning open spaces and, Rowley's Farm out in Pawtuckettville, as opposed to another, 50, 60 unit housing development.
But Larry Curtis needs an addition on his home. So anything for him. It's $9 million in Boxford. I don't think the city is using nearly enough money from any of these sources, any of the sources of funding they have. When we talk about increasing density, density is phenomenal. I live in a condo. I don't have a yard. I'm happy for it. I walk to work. It's lovely. But there's a certain amount that comes with committing to live in a dense space, and that's having access to functional, meaningful, enjoyable, in community-focused public spaces, and not another 100 yards of brick patio, or 100 square feet of brick patio, not 100 yards. As we add more housing to an already incredibly dense downtown and back central, I've heard other city councilors, well, we're going to run out of city parcels. But it's when we say we're going to run out of city parcels, we don't even follow that up with, like, have we remembered to make sure that there's some level of amenity and accessible use for the residents that are here or that are moving here? No, I think the answer is no. I think wherever that money comes from, I don't much care, but it's a need.
Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of discussion about housing, and last week the council kind of shot down that Lowell Forward housing plan. It was a very tight vote. Some folks surprised by it. There are other housing issues that have come forward from the ADU battle, legendary ADU battle of 2 years ago, to the yes in God's backyard. What's interesting to me is that whenever you talk about solving the housing issue, your district, District 4, always comes up, right? Whether it's Lower Centerville or downtown, the Acre always comes up. The Lower Highlands always come up. But do you believe the other neighborhoods should be doing more? You don't have to run in those neighborhoods.
I don't have to run on those neighborhoods. More? And this is actually one of the things that ticks me off about the current city council, is that the district reps should have been able to say something like this, right? And I sat there and you're representing one of the most densely populated downtowns. I'm not running for the Acre, but this applies to the Acre as well. Why are we doing this? Well, it's housing and we're going to build it. They don't know. Let's be specific. And this is going to tick off the Belvedere crowd, and I don't actually care that much. That's not the job I want. If I ever run it large, shoot me. But if I ever run it large, I'll walk it back. I'm kidding. I won't walk it back. I'm not walking it back. We sit and we listen, and I've listened for years to the city council in the kind of the political class of the city likes to throw out this, like, other communities need to do their part. True. 100% true. However, within the city, some of these other neighborhoods need to do their part, because holy crap, right? Like, every single hey, we're good. Wynn is going to buy, what are we going to do? Oh, Sal Poli, he wants to do it. Never mind, it's Cabot, and and they're going to build in. How about, there's a lot of people living here. Can we figure out, can someone tell me what, I was talking to someone on the way here who said this, and I said, that's a really good question. I'm going to say it on the podcast with what reach it has. What's the goal? What's the balance we're shooting for in downtown? Like, what percent of plots are we looking for as housing? What do we want for commercial? What do we want as open space? Is there an ideal out there somewhere? Or is this just kind of every time something comes up, we have a couple dice we roll, and it usually lands on a commercial real estate development with 100 rentable market rate units? I don't know. I would like to know if there's a goal, or if we're just going to get to the end and go, huh?
All right. Parking. You mentioned parking. The city's losing a ton of money on parking those parking garages. Conversely, as we talked, when we first met, it's also getting expensive for folks who live in the downtown or work in the downtown to park in the downtown.
Yeah.
Those two can't really exist at the same time unless we flood the downtown with so many new people,
just overnight, right?
And business people,
boom,
that the parking enterprise fund makes up for it. So it creates all sorts of issues. What are your thoughts on the parking issue? Is too much of it borne by the downtown residents and businesses?
Yes. Exclamation point after the yes. I know Lowell has a history, a rather sordid history of municipal gambling rings. It's one of the, like in the 90s, especially. The parking enterprise is a municipal gambling ring right now. We're all, and by we all, I mean downtown residents and employees of businesses and small business owners, are funding the city's gambling debt, whether it was a good gamble or not, on that 𝐤𝐶ID garage. So it's the parking enterprise fund I pulled up in the last budget, I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. It's $6.3 million in debt service. That debt is an empty parking garage that we built in the middle of an empty lot before asking the guy with the pizza chain to build one across the street. So duh. Right? Like, we're losing money. So we borrowed $2 million this year, and there was hand wringing about it, and we start talking about, well, are we going to have to private it? No. You're charging downtown, and when we're counting our beans, we're including a debt service on a garage nobody uses that I didn't ask for. I don't think any of my neighbors asked for. That sounds like the city's gamble on future development. So I feel like the city, all of us, should be handling that $6.3 million in debt. And if we were $2 million shy with $6 million in debt service, it sure sounds like we were actually making enough money, right? We were $2 million shy. We paid $6 million of debt. Sounds like we had $4 million left if we weren't covering the gambling debt on the 𝐤𝐶ID garage before you raise my fee and my neighbor's fee and write another parking ticket to the bartender at Warp and Weft.
The theory is that you're eventually going to see enough development that garage will then get full, and then we can start the debate of
that's what I'm saying.
The next one that'll sit vacant for a couple of years.
Correct, but that's the gamble. Right. And I think if other city councilors were more accountable to their constituents for some of the parking gamble that we're taking, I don't think we'd be racking up. We wouldn't yearly be looking at, oh my God, I can't believe we're bleeding money from the enterprise fund. But we don't talk about where we're bleeding money. We're not bleeding money on maintenance because my gate's broken once a month, more than once a month. It's probably every other week. It's 15 minutes to get out of the garage. So long you drive somewhere in Lowell and you park at the Roy, the biggest gamble. It's not how many red lights. It's not, is there an accident? It's, I wonder if I can get out today. I wonder if the gate's working. Can't tell you how many texts I've sent. Hey, sorry, I'm running late. I'm just sitting at the gate.
I've been very fortunate to not have to deal with that, but I have seen it.
Yeah,
I've walked by when they're trying to get that thing open. All right, let's talk schools. You're a teacher, and you may not be able to vote on some of these issues when they come forward, but you can certainly speak about them now as you're a candidate. So last meeting, the city council, or a couple of meetings ago, the city council decided that they instructed the manager to take $2 million out of the rainy day fund, whatever they call that fund, and give it to the schools. Would you have supported that? Do you believe the city needs to do more to fund the schools? Or
I think we need to be clear that wasn't bonus money, right? That was a, let's make up for the fact that apparently nobody told the schools department that they were going to get a $4 million cut, which was closer to a $6 million cut. The school department budgeted, saying, I bet they won't give us the raise that would track with what we've gotten year over year, so we'll budget it for. And then the city turned around and said, actually, it's $4 million less than that. And then they settled, meeting in the middle, with this $2 million. But it wasn't the middle. And it wasn't bonus money to the school after the fact either. It was actually getting closer. And if we knew that was coming, I don't understand why that wasn't. If there's this great relationship, I don't really understand how nobody at City Hall could walk, across the street and down a door and knock on someone's door and let them know what was coming as they planned their own budget.
Yeah, I'm beginning to wonder if the relationship is as great as it was made out to be originally. As I look at the school funding, and regardless of where the money came from, the city, the state, you know, throw maintenance of effort in there and stuff, but I'm just the actual budget itself. The schools still had 5.5% more money than they had in the previous year, and couldn't make do with it. We were told that the entire education system and every kid that needed a paraprofessional was going to get left behind, even with a 5.5% budget increase for the schools as a whole. Doesn't that point to some kind of a structural problem that, okay, so we met in the middle this year. I'm afraid we're going to be back there next year and every year after that, unless that structural thing is addressed.
I think this goes back to the long-term planning and the kind of reactivity that we get from the cities, and you know, don't fire me, but probably the schools as well, where when I looked, actually, as all this was happening, I looked, and on the DESE website, you can go, it's like DESE accountability, and then you click on finance, and you click on their Chapter 70 net funding, and it gives you a percentage funded that DESE has assigned, and that's based on the number of it's not a per pupil expenditure. It's based on your demographic makeup of your school as well. So how many high needs students, how many special needs students, multi-language learners, total population students, and it spits out the number. And then it looks at how much money the school has, what the state says the bare minimum, and like the bare minimum is like rice and beans, 3 meals a day version of education. That's 100%. When you look at a wealthy community like Concord, doesn't have a high school, it's like 238% funded on DESE's last row of money. Lawrence, other end of the spectrum, was at 95% funded. It's in receivership still, right? Mm-hmm. When you look at a city that for some reason we like to compare ourselves to, Cambridge was 230-something% funded. We're not going to 230% funded. I'm not delusional. Haverhill, just down the river, another gateway city, 114%. Lowell is at 104%. Are there inefficiencies? Are there problems in the school budget? Yes, I've looked. There are some weird things, right? There's some weird things in every budget. However, I think that structurally, if we want to talk about a structural problem, we need to figure out what our goal is. And if we know what our goal is and what we're funding towards, then we can start talking, because I think right now it starts to look like, oh, we're going to get X amount of dollars, and then we'll be able to do all these really nice things with it. And then it goes away, and we go, how do we fund the really nice? It's not even really nice things. But what is our goal? Where do we want our schools to be? How much money is the city willing to invest in it? And I don't think that 114%, that's only a 10% bump, is completely insane if we know where that money's going and what the plan for the school is. I think that's one of the reasons people move to a community. Why people stay.
Lastly, I'll kind of lump this all into one general question, and there's been a lot of focus on some national issues, and we saw a couple of rallies in the city over the weekend. There was a march down Market Street Friday night. And you know, kudos to Lowell. The folks that gather in Lowell for some reason managed to stay peaceful, where in other parts of the country they're destroying the communities that they're fighting for. But you know, everyone in Lowell did it. But I understand that as we speak right now, an email campaign is being mounted to pressure city councilors into becoming more forceful on ICE immigration operations. We've seen in recent weeks or the last month, DEI that's coming under attack in DC. Folks want the city of Lowell to get more forceful in these issues. Kind of lumping them all into one, these issues that are national and hey, sometimes international issues, right? I'm sure the Iran-Israel thing from the last couple of days may generate some letters to the city councils. Do you think the city councilors should be more active in these types of issues that, you know, matter obviously to some of their constituents? Do you think they should leave them alone, be less active than they've been, or are they juggling it at a pretty good balance here? What's your thought on that, Sean?
Well, I don't know if you could be less active than they've been. Right? Can we go into the negative on activity levels? I think that regardless of how your stance on national politics, that at a municipal level and as a city councilor, you do have some level of responsibility to your constituents, and if they're afraid about something, I think that's real, right? And there are two very quick versions here. One is I teach at the high school, and it is, regardless of how you think about national immigration policy and federal agencies that the city council has no control over, it is heartbreaking to watch 15 and 16-year-old kids like be genuinely afraid of the government of the country they live in. Regardless, I don't know anyone's immigration status, right? But regardless of their immigration status, on a human level, that is troubling. That should upset you, even if you think, you know, I'm so glad that, you know, Donald Trump's. Wait, no, stop for a second. On a human level, that's deeply upsetting. You should be sad, and you should say something about that. You should, because it is causing real harm. Two, a few weeks ago, Canal Place 3 had, I don't know, a raid. It was the wrong building. Talking to residents over there, and that's my neighbor. It's somebody else's. It's an even closer neighbor for somebody else. But you had guys with long guns walking through a residential building. Like, that's terrifying. I don't care how you. There is a duty as a city councilor there. There is a duty as an elected official who represents that building and those people to say from the council floor, probably not. Okay. Could you get space in the sun? Could you come on your show? Could you put an op-ed on Inside Lowell? Yeah. You'll publish anybody. That's wrong. It's wrong. People who live in my district should not be afraid to walk the hallway of their building. That's insane. That's insane.
All right. Good. People know where you stand on that.
But
it's sometimes hard to get out of, folks. I appreciate
I can't do anything about it. Right. And I don't think any of the city councilors can really do anything about it. But to say that we're that afraid of whatever amount of money just to say, like, I'm upset that residents of my district are terrified, regardless of how you feel about immigration policy, the way it's being enforced in Lowell right now is deeply scary. It is scary less to me as a white dude who was born here, but it's scary to my neighbors. It's scary to my students. It's scary to friends of mine. I don't think it's right that we're allowing our residents basically to be bullied like this. I'm not saying go throw rocks, please. No one go throw rocks, but to use the microphone and say, like, really, like, we're just gonna kick that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna look at people and we're just gonna kick them. That's messed up.
All righty. Couple of questions to wrap it up. You probably have thought about it if you've watched previous podcasts with candidates, but what's the main difference between you and the incumbent holding that seat? Wayne Jeunesse has held that seat for both terms now, and he's pulled paperwork to seek re-election. There was a little drama mystery there about whether he would or not. That was settled relatively quickly. But if you are elected, how will you be different than Councillor Jeunesse has been during his first two terms?
I mean, I think I'm hoping it's pretty clear just from the interview. I think I know I can be something of a loudmouth. I work on not doing it in a bad way. I think that I am very willing to speak up on issues that affect people in my district. I'm not worried about ticking off people who live in Belvedere or that work at the State House. I don't really care. What I care about is my neighbors. I care about my neighbors. I care about my city, and I want a livable and fun downtown.
Is there a politician, an elected official somewhere that you kind of, I don't want to say idolize, but that you admire and that you could kind of see yourself patterning your style after if you're elected?
I'm really uncomfortable with this whole politician thing. Actually, I never really saw myself running for anything. I think in my college days, I was like the radical, like electoral politics is dumb guy. And now here I am running for city council. So, Dan Finn said one about a teacher. I'm gonna see if I can't do him one better. I have a student who I'm gonna not allude to too directly because it'll be a FERPA violation. This kid cares more about the community he lives in than anybody I've ever met. He cares more about the state of that new high school than John Leahy. And John Leahy cares a lot about the paint in that new high school, which I appreciate as someone who has to work there. But when a doorknob's broken, he dragged Jim Dowd to my classroom because my doorknob didn't work. Like, the kid doesn't care. He's like, this is a problem and it needs to be fixed. And I like that. I like that a lot. And
I won't name the student yet either. If it's the same one I'm thinking of, I've invited him to come join.
No.
Oh,
Different
it's a different one.
Totally different student.
Even better. Okay.
Yeah. No, and he's one of my day-to-day students in the special ed program. He is just an amazing kid. On a more national level, I don't know, music. I like Woody Guthrie. Never won office, but there was a guy who didn't really care about saying what was on his mind.
All right.
He cared about normal people. That's it. That's what it is.
Well, I think you have established that you're not a typical politician.
I have to say Paul Georges is my political idol. I'm kidding. He's not my political idol, but he definitely gets me a raise.
Yeah. He certainly does. If everybody in the city were as competent at doing their job as Paul Georges,
my God.
I don't think the school would have a structural deficit.
Right.
The budget.
No, and I think, and just on the structural deficit, if the schools knew what it is, if the school in the city could decide what the schools are supposed to be doing, I think we could address this deficit, and then it wouldn't look like it when we get there, right? Because we'd be able to budget for what we want to do.
And I bet Paul Georges would be a willing partner in that. All right. How do folks learn more about you? I'm going to guess anyone seeing this being introduced to you for the first time probably has a ton of follow-up questions. How do they learn more about you? I know you just recently launched your candidacy, so you don't have much of a social media presence yet, but I know that that's coming. So how would you like folks to get in touch with you, learn more about you, volunteer to help you, and also you do need some money to run for office to donate to your campaign?
So anything related to money, I can't talk about. However, because I'm a public employee, yeah, but I have a political committee, but I'm not talking about it. I'm not touching it with a 10-foot stick. I have a Facebook page with very little on it right now, working on it, coming up this week. It's Sean McDonough for District 4. I have an Instagram with even less than the Facebook, but more's coming this week. The page is there so you can follow it when it goes up. It's Sean4Lowell. You can email Sean4Lowell@gmail.com. I'm not going to do the Francisco thing and give you my phone number. My wife would kill me. But if I ever talk to you,
you got an 11-month-old, so you don't want your phone ringing.
If I ever see you, if you see me walking around, feel free to stop me. I will almost. I've given everybody who talks to me on the street my phone number if they want it, but I'm not putting it on the internet forever. I would like to stay married.
And you'll be changing it after the election, whatever happens, right? All right. Well, Sean McDonough, thank you for coming on in, giving folks a little chance to learn more about you. Good luck out there on the campaign trail.
Thank you very much.
Hoping to have you back for a debate with Wayne Jeunesse and anybody else who might still get into the race in the district, if anybody does. But good luck out there, and we'll be in touch soon, I'm sure.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you to Sean, and thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you got a little better inside view of the candidate and his thoughts and why he's running for District 4 City Councilor. Till next time, everybody, stay safe. Enjoy your day out there, whatever day you may be viewing this on, and we'll catch you on the other side.